and welcome to the season opener of the BRSCC Mazda SuperCup Championship. We're down here in assembly area, about ready for race one. So James, how are you feeling this season's going to happen?
It's going to be an amazing battle. We've got at least 15, 16 drivers out there who could walk away as the champion, probably about 6 or 7 more who could win races. It's always been very close, and to have it here in Silverstone with greasy conditions, it's a perfect start to the season.
It is indeed. In fact, I'm going to head right on over to Luke, who's back to see if he can continue his season reign from last year. Luke, how are you feeling about this year?
Yeah, really excited. It's the first opportunity I've ever had to defend the championship. I never got to do it in 2012 in the MX-5s, and in 2015 when I won it, I never got to defend the title. So, you know, it's an exciting task and some new competition with Will putting it on the front row in his first weekend. So, yeah, I'm excited. Changing conditions, but first qualifying, put it on pole. Yeah, I'm really pleased. So, yeah, excited.
Thanks, Lyndsay. Well, the cars are lining themselves up on the grid, but drama already. Pole sitter and reigning champion Luke Herbert has had an issue on the green flag lap. He will not be starting from pole, he'll be starting from the back. That means Will Stacey's all alone on row 1. Richard Wicklund and Jack Harding make up row 2, ahead of Nick Dunn, Johnny Greensmith, Aidan Hills and Steve Roberts. Then it's Gary Townsend and James Harris rounding out the top 10. Simon Baldwin and Colin Bysouth row 6th. Then 2 to watch, I think. Carl Garnett and James Blake Baldwin should be quicker than that as we get into the race. It's a full 35 car grid. They will all be there, but as I mentioned, Luke Herbert, his car, as it pulled out of the assembly area on its way to the grid, all of a sudden stopped. He got out of the car, lifted the bonnet, started fiddling around underneath it, and all of a sudden it fired back into life. So he's been able to rejoin, but because everyone had gone past him on the outlap, he is not able to take up his pole position starting position. So it is the other blue car number 192 of William Stacey that will line up on his own on the front row of the grid in damp conditions here to start off the 2018 Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. The lights go out now, away we go. Great start from the front of the grid, as you'd expect on his own for Will Stacey. He will lead down to turn 1. Looks as though it's side by side between Jack Harding and Richard Wicklund for second. Wicklund will have the momentum around the outside. There in car number 4 is James Blake Baldwin with his stepbrother Simon to do battle with as well in the near identically liveried Blink Motorsport car. They are definitely 2 to watch, carving their way through. Up towards Beckett's we go. Stacey leads the way, Wicklund second, and in fact Johnny Greensmith there, the white car with the blue stripes, is into third ahead of Jack Harding, who's dropped down to 4th, and then Nick Dunn, the white car with the red stripes, going round the outside. Let's see if we can a few cars really wide there through the ward splash at Beckett. Where is Luke Herbert? There he is, the blue car on the inside line. So he's already passed 3 or 4, but he's got a lot of work to do. 35 cars entered here this weekend. Down the Wellington straight we go for the first time, and Johnny Greensmith continues his march to the front. He started 6th, he's already into 2nd place, and there's contact between Gary Townsend and James Blake Baldwin. I don't believe it. Carl Garnett and Colin Bysouth get caught up in that as well. But James Blake Baldwin, well, although he and Gary Townsend will both rejoin, they've both fallen an awfully long way down the order. There is James. He's now trying to fight his way back through up the order. Nick Rutter was the red car. Oh, Nick Dunn's in the gravel trap, and somebody else with him as well. It's all kicked off here, as we sort of thought it might do. It's such a busy grid, a short, sharp lap, and it's wet as well. And the Silverstone National circuit has been fully resurfaced over the course of the winter, so the drivers don't really know what the grip levels are going to be like. Back through Copse goes James Blake Baldwin. He now dives up the inside of Darren Stapleton. Carl Garnett is the next man in front. He was an innocent victim in that contact down at Brooklands. So they make their way up towards Beckett's once again. And hard on the brakes, James Blake Baldwin now really want to watch as he tries to come through. In the blue car in the background, Luke Herbert, you can see he's not that far behind now. So Herbert is making good ground. There are Carl Garnett and the sort of zebra livery car of, oh dear, oh, cars off everywhere further back. What on earth was going on there? Number 33 is in the gravel. That is James Kell. And I think Gary Townsend might have been off again there. He was involved in that too. So James Kell rejoining, but 3 or 4 cars all skating straight on. It's very easy to do. And as I mentioned, on this resurfaced track here at Silverstone, the drivers don't really know where the grip is. So under braking into Beckett's, where it's easy to lock up anyway, is now even more treacherous in the wet. Out wide there goes Nick Rutter again, so he now succumbs to the recovering Luke Herbert, and then there's a bit of paint training as well. So they make their way back down the pit straight. A lively start to the season, I think it's safe to say. There's Jack Sycamore, the orange and white number 91 car, now in behind Darren Stapleton. And they turn their way in towards Copse Corner. The sun is out, You might be wondering, therefore, why some of the drivers have still got their windscreen wipers going. Well, that's because the spray that's getting kicked up from the cars in front, that is still being deposited on the windscreen of the cars behind and obscuring visibility. Nice move being attempted up the inside there by Will Stevenson, trying to find a way past Sam Tatler, and it's the yellow car that I think will possibly move through. And they're both going to see James Blake Baldwin, red mist having fully descended, I think, for the former champ, making his way right up behind them now, down toward the end of the Wellington Straight. James, the only driver to have won championships in the Mark 1 Championship and in this Mark 3 series for the Super Cup. He's a very, very quick driver. Had a few issues early on last year that sort of counted him out of the championship equation early on. There is Luke Herbert, so Darren Stapleton is now the next man in his sights. They turn their way up through Luffield. As back at the front, we'd almost forgotten about the leaders with all of the goings on behind. This is Johnny Greensmith going for the race lead into Copse Corner and getting past Will Stacey. Now, Will Stacey is a new name in MX-5 racing, but he may be very young as well. We don't think that he's inexperienced, because he's done quite a lot of racing and race winning in Lotuses. He's been a Lotus racer for a few seasons now, has Will. So he knows how to race. It's just a case of getting used to the real cut and thrust stuff that we have in the MX-5 SuperCup. We get quite a lot of that in Lotus Elise racing as well, so he should feel right at home. He has lost the lead though now to Johnny Greensmith, who said that last season was pretty much the worst season of his racing career, the former MX-5 and Porsche Boxster champion. And he has given that car a full refurbish over the course of the winter, and it seems to have worked, because he's into the race lead here at the start of race number 1 of the season. Here is this lead pack. There's Richard Wickland. He's dropped back actually a little bit now. So too has Jack Harding. Remember, those two started on the second row together. Well, they're now 5th and 6th respectively. So into third place has come Steve Roberts, former BMW Compact Cup champion, multiple Compact Cup champion. Aidan Hills is now 4th. Richard Wickland is 5th. Jack Harding is 6th. And I think that's Nick Dunn up there in 7th position. Yes, it is. Just in behind in the number 17 car. Nick Dunn, another driver who's really found some good performance over the course of the winter. Then James Harris and Simon Baldwin are the next two cars that make up this lead train, as Will Stacey is back up the inside now. Oh, Richard Wickland's off! Richard Wickland off into the gravel trap, and that, oh, the car almost tips over, but that is well and truly buried. He is going nowhere. I'm not 100% certain, but I think there was contact with another car there, and the next car behind him was Jack Harding, so we'll have to wait and see whether there is anything said or done about that, but that was all rather unfortunate, really. Yeah, Harding is now defending from Nick Dunn. So it was one of the white, red and blue cars that made contact with him. I'm beginning to think maybe now it was Nick Dunn, I'm not too sure, but as we make our way through Luffield again, James Harris therefore closes ever further onto the tail of the cars ahead. But that little touch, it's such a tricky part of the circuit. You're braking on a turn there, you're turning to the left, and then you've got to flick it right into Beckett's, and so it's all too easy to just drift across into another car. It's not put either of these two off there. They're both still continuing on their way. Nick Dunn in the Clapham North liveried machine makes his way out of Copse Corner, waving out of the cockpit to somebody, not entirely sure, and hand out of the cockpit because there are double wave yellow flags down at Beckett's, as the ever hard-working and efficient British Marshals are on the scene trying to recover Richard Wickland's car to a place of safety. So back out of Beckett's, down the Wellington Straight they go again. Nick Dunn starting to fall into the clutches now, James Harris. This, though, is the fight for, well, the race lead, essentially, and it's all changed again, look, because Johnny Greensmith is now down to 3rd, behind Steve Roberts, and this is a far more competitive start to the season than we saw at any point, really, last year for Steve. Steve had, I think it's safe to say, a slightly troublesome transition from BMW racing to Mazda racing, but he's really got the hang of it now, and that car is running quickly, and he's into 2nd place. Is he going to be able to close down on race leader Will Stacey, I wonder? Into Copse Corner, dry racing lines starting to appear, but it's still a bit greasy, and offline it's still full wet conditions, I'd say. It's been really raining non-stop all day here at Silverstone. Qualifying was soaking wet this morning. This is actually slightly better grip levels than they will have experienced in that qualifying session. But it's not affecting the racing, is it? It's keeping everybody very close together indeed. Nick Dunn there, back onto the tail now of Jack Harding. Oh, that's a bit wide, over the curb. Big bump as well in the road as you make your way out of Beckett's and back down the Wellington Straight into arguably the best overtaking opportunity on the circuit down at Brooklands. You use the slipstream to close in down the Wellington Straight and then try to slingshot up the inside into the braking zone. The only man who attempted it on this occasion was Nick Dunn, but it didn't work, and so Jack Harding will hang on to the 5th position that he holds. 6th for Dunn, 7th for Harris, and then a little gap back still to Simon Baldwin, who's not quite been able to buy into all this just yet. And there you can see his teammate, James Blake Baldwin, is now the next car behind. So James has managed to recover now into 9th place, which is better than he started. So he started 14th, gained a few places, then got taken out down at Brooklands on lap 1, fell right towards the back, and now he is now starting to gain positions on his starting position. So been a tricky race this for James Blake Baldwin. He won't be too pleased with what happened at the start, but it's all about the recovery, I guess. And in such a long championship as this, it's mostly important just to try and score good points. There are lots of points available at each race weekend, 100 points for a race victory, plus the 2 for fastest laps and whatnot. So one bad race can really hurt you. One average race doesn't hurt you too much. Down towards Brooklands comes this fight for second, as Johnny Greensmith is trying to find a way past Steve Roberts. Through the left-hander. Staying as far away from the curbs as they can, because the painted surfaces will still be very wet indeed. But you see there through Luffield, traditionally in the wet here at Silverstone, the drivers would be driving right around the extreme outer edge of that corner, because that's where the grip is in the wet conditions, where the rubber hasn't been laid down. But with this being a new surface and there's been reasonably little running on it, the rubber hasn't really been laid down on the racing line just yet, and so the inside line is just as grippy. So that will develop over the next year or so as more and more racing is done here. And that's been another thing for the drivers to really try and figure out as the weekend's gone on. Several of them were out testing on Friday, and then obviously they had a qualifying session this morning. Down into Beckett's, bit of a move being attempted there by Jack Harding up the inside of Aidan Hills. Oh, who gets sideways, and that will make the job even easier for not only Harding, but possibly Nick Dunn as well, who now tries to drag himself alongside. So down the Wellington Straight we go again. We're into the second half of this race now, and this is the battle that is raging for 4th on back. I think Harding's got 4th. What's going to happen for 5th? Aidan Hills on the inside, Nick Dunn on the outside, and James Harris saying, I want to join in this as well. Oh, Nick Dunn out on the greasy side of the road, and he could lose a place now to James Harris potentially. Yes, he does. So Harris gets through. So prime example there of how when you're in the middle of a big queue of cars, you're trying to attack and you're trying to advance your position, only to make a move that doesn't work and end up losing ground. So good stuff there, opportunistic driving from James Harris, but Nick Dunn will be frustrated with the way that his afternoon is panning out so far. The sun starts to break back through the clouds again. It's still bitterly cold here at Silverstone today. There's quite a wind as well, and ambient temperature is fairly low. Oops, Aidan Hills wide again, and that almost allowed James Harris alongside, but not quite. Not quite enough room as he made his way down towards Maggots and Beckett's. This 4th place battle, though, as entertaining as it is allowing the leading 2 to just break away ever so slightly. So that means that William Stacey, Johnny Greensmith and Steve Roberts can do battle over the leading positions and let everyone else fight over the scraps behind them. We don't see any changes down the Wellington Straight here. Looks like Aidan Hills is now forcing Jack Harding to drive defensively into the left-hander. James Harris, yeah, just holding off Nick Dunn. But this has brought Simon Baldwin into play as well now. And as we've documented, not far behind him, aiming to try and gain any more positions than he can, is James Blake Baldwin. So down across the start-finish line we go, and in towards Copse Corner. Will Stacey then continuing to lead the way here. And this really is a remarkable performance for someone in their first ever MX-5 race. I don't care how experienced a racing driver you are, whether it's your first ever race or you're a seasoned veteran, Mazda MX-5 racing, if you've never done it before, is quite a different beast. And the way in which the racing works, the cars will stay so close together for the entire race duration, especially in a circuit like this, which is custom made almost for Mazda MX-5 racing, with its long straights and its wide layout. Oops, that was a cone going flying, and I think that was Aidan Hills who sent it off to the on the grass. Yes, Aidan Hills, you can see in the background, has now really dropped down the order. across the start-finish line then. So James Harris has now dropped behind. Is that Simon Baldwin or James Blake Baldwin? I think it's Simon Baldwin, still first of the Baldwins in the order. That is Nick Dunn dicing away with Jack Harding. Make the way now in toward Maggotts and Beckett's again. Will Stacey leading the way. Steve Robertson second. Third place is Johnny Greensmith. Fourth for Harding. Fifth for Dunn. And then sixth place is Simon Baldwin. But defending that sixth place now from James Harris in the 37 car. And James Blake Baldwin is becoming an ever larger figure in their wing mirrors as well. He's definitely closing in. Back down the Wellington straight they go. We're being notified of a few 5-second time penalties for exceeding the track limits. Cars 8 and 69. Well, 8 is Aidan Hills. We just saw him exceeding the track limits up at Beckett's. And 69 is George Grant, who's running down towards the back end of the top 20. And if they do it again, then they could find themselves being given a 10-second penalty, a 15-second penalty, and maybe even excluded from the race altogether. For those new to that rule, exceeding the track limits in the UK means driving over the outside of a white line. So you'll see the entire edge of the circuit is painted with a white line. That denotes the edge of the racetrack. If you cross that white line with even one wheel, then you are deemed to be exceeding the track limits. The only way time you're ever allowed to cross that white line is if you're using a curb. So you can use the painted curbs like they are doing there, under braking into Beckett's. And if you go over the edge of that curb, that will be deemed to be exceeding track limits as well. Back through Beckett's then comes this titanic tussle between Simon Baldwin and James Harris, although Harris didn't get a great run through there, so he's dropped behind one Baldwin, and he's got another one closing in now. James Blake Baldwin is looking set to try and pick up another place here. He's already gained one after Aidan Hill's grassy moment up at Beckett's a few laps ago. He could be about to gain another one. Down into Brooklands go Nick Dunn and Jack Harding, and there goes James Harris. So, well, that made life even easier for James Blake Baldwin as James Harris fires himself at the scenery. Luckily, he doesn't actually make contact with anything, but he's lost a lot of ground, and so James Blake Baldwin has now gone through. So James Harris now, in fact, has got to watch his mirrors because he's got several more cars starting to close in behind. Sam Tatler, I think that was, closing in. So Nick Dunn again has a look around the outside at Copse Corner, can't find a way through. This is very close racing indeed, though, between these two, but the more they hold each other up battling, the more the Baldwins are going to close in. Have they got time, though, to catch up before the end of the race? Well, I think Simon Baldwin definitely has, and he wouldn't bet against James being able to get up there as well. Good to see Simon Baldwin, though, former race winner in the Mark 1 series, but ever since he transitioned over into the SuperCup, he's yet to find the podium. He's not going to find the podium in this race either, but at least he's finding the top 10, and that's a step in the right direction. Down back towards Brooklands they go. There is James Harris. And in fact, it's Aidan Hills, beg your pardon, behind. And there, remarkably, is Luke Herbert. The blue car, number 1, has made his way from 35th on the grid, essentially, to now be inside the top 10. This is a remarkable fight back from Luke. Luckily, the car, whatever the issue was on that outlap, doesn't appear to have struck again during the race. He's just passed slightly wayward Colin Bicel, and Luke Herbert could gain more out of this as well, because he's not a million miles behind the next two cars, Simon Harris and Aidan Hills. So brilliant stuff this has been for Luke Herbert, and it does look as though he's going to be able to pick up some really good points in this race. Drop scores as well, of course, come into play later on in the season. So if this turns out to be one of his worst results for the year, he can use this as a dropped score. Being told now of further penalties, 10-second time penalties now for exceeding the track limits. Car 6 is 1, that is Tom Parker a bit further down the order. Car 16, Simon Baldwin. Simon Baldwin been given a 10-second penalty, and car 223, Gary Townsend as well. So more drivers being given time penalties. Getting hard to keep up with all of this, isn't it? But Simon Baldwin is the one that is almost the most significant read, because that now drops him quite some way down the order. In fact, it drops him, importantly, behind this man, Luke Herbert. So Simon Baldwin running, by my reckoning, about 8th or 9th now on corrected times, as Jack Harding and Nick Dunn again continue to do battle through Copse Corner. where they've been overlapping on most occasions, but they have now been caught well and truly by the pair of Baldwins. Simon moves to the left of the track, James moves to the right and might be about to go through here. Let's see. Hard on the brakes. No, it's Simon that makes the move around the outside of Nick Dunn, and then on the inside of Nick Dunn goes the other one. So Nick Dunn gets well and truly Baldwin there, and Simon goes through, James Blake Baldwin goes through as well, and now they set off after Jack Harding. Great racing though this has been from a pair of Baldwins, particularly James though, when you consider that he was pointing the wrong way down here on the first lap of the race. Back through Brooklands again. In Donald that was going a lap down in 85 car. Back through Luffield, and James Blake Baldwin now found a way past Simon Baldwin, his stepbrother. Remember, Simon has this 10-second time penalty for exceeding the track limits, like he just did there, coming out of Luffield. Obviously careful, otherwise that'll be increased to 15 seconds potentially, as we go on to the final lap of the race. So time running out now for James, who may or may not know about the time penalty for Simon in front of him. If he does, then he might just be able to, might be tempted possibly just to mind his P's and Q's and not get too involved here. Wait and see. Up towards Maggots and Beckett's they go at the front of the field, I remind you. Will Stacey is still leading the way by now, about 2 seconds over Steve Roberts. With Johnny Greensmith third, Jack Harding fourth, but runs wide into the puddle. So too do the two cars behind him, though, Simon and James Blake Baldwin. So they come down the Wellington Straight. This is sort of the last opportunity now, you'd imagine, to find a way through. Use the slipstream, try and get up the inside. Simon Baldwin defending here from James Blake Baldwin, so there's certainly no family love here, is there? Although James might just go around the outside anyway. No, didn't really need to take the risk anyway, so I think those positions are likely to stay the same to the flag now. Coming out of Luffield corner then, towards the start-finish line, and already approaching the checkered flag, we are going to see Will Stacey, who is going to win in his first ever Mazda MX-5 SuperCup race. A remarkable achievement that for the youngster. Steve Roberts second, Johnny Greensmith third, Harding fourth, Simon Baldwin is fifth on the road. We'll have to wait and see where that works out with corrected times. It will be James Blake Baldwin that inherits that fifth place, and indeed here is confirmation of the results. So Stacey, Roberts, Greensmith, Harding and Blake Baldwin fifth, Nick Dunn is sixth, Luke Herbert seventh after all of his dramas, Colin Bysouth eighth, with Simon Baldwin ninth on corrected times, ahead of Aidan Hills. Alec Livesley is 11th, ahead of Will Stevenson. Sam Tatler, Carl Garnett and Darren Stapleton rounds out the top 15. Looks as though we've got most cars to the finish as well. We lost Richard Wicklin in the gravel trap, of course, and also James Harris, we're hearing, has been excluded for driving in a manner incompatible with general safety. The specifics of that I don't know, but he is therefore excluded from the result and is a non-finisher.
Will Stacey, welcome to the winner's circle in 2018. That must be pretty satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, I did not expect it. First race, really didn't expect that, but absolutely chuffed. Couldn't have asked for anything more, really.
And you won the race by 2 seconds. I'm not sure you're aware of how SuperCup racing is supposed to work. It's supposed to be much closer than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's meant to be right bumper to bumper, but I mean, Steve was there for quite a bit, but I think he made a little mistake. Managed to sort of check out and get away from him. Also, I mean, Luke wasn't there as well because he didn't start at the front anyway, so that gave me the chance. Because I was happily further ahead of the start, which gave me the chance to break. I mean, there are other people that I wouldn't have had that much of a margin, I'm sure.
Should your opponents be slightly concerned about what 2018 holds if you're going to be that strong in race one?
I mean, I'll leave it up to them to decide, really. It was a bit wet as well, but better in the wet, so.
Well, hopefully there's a few more silverwares where that came from, buddy. I'm hoping it's going to be a bit more.
That's what I'm hoping for. That's really what I'm hoping for. A few more wins, I mean, what you want in this pack grid.
Good job, Will. Fantastic job.
Thank you very much.
Steve Roberts, another fantastic battle to start the 2018 season campaign. That was a bit tight at times.
Yeah, well, we didn't have the qualifier we wanted after the pace we had in testing yesterday, but no, it was a good race. Came through from 8th, I got up to 2nd pretty quickly, and I was thinking, right, I've got the pace to get onto Will based on yesterday's testing times, but to be fair to Will, he drove a cracking race and just started to edge away again, and then I started to heat rears up towards the end of the race, which Johnny was coming on strong, so I thought, right, first race, bank a second.
Learned a few lessons in how to beat him tomorrow?
Yeah, potentially. To be fair, we put a wet setup on it because we thought it was wet and it dried out, so go back to the dry setup we had yesterday and I think we'll be okay.
Fantastic. Hopefully there's more silverware where that came from.
Definitely. Cheers.
Jonathan, fantastic drive, really tricky conditions, but at times you made that look quite easy. I'm guessing it wasn't.
No, it weren't easy. Definitely young Will and Steve and that really come on board. But no, it was touchy conditions. There were only one dry line. I had a senior moment down at the bottom where I got it totally sideways in puddle and that allowed Steve to come through. But tried to get him back, but that market got it away and that were it. So third, but spot on.
Well, when there's 7 or 8 of you battling for the victory, third position is not actually that bad after all of it.
No, it's quite good, especially with this field, how many is competing and that, and the level of it as well. So really, I'm quite pleased with that. Yeah, definitely.
More for race 2, do you reckon?
All being well, hopefully Luke will be there mixing it up as well, so that make it interesting. Me and Luke are old friends liking that, so hopefully we'll spice it up a bit more.
Good job, that's one bit of silverware. Go grab 2 more.
Yeah, try my best. Thank you.